praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the House of Faith. I'm truly blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. I know I'm coming before you very early. They won't be able to come to you this evening. So I want to get this one in. And we're just going to deal with the beginning. And that's the title, In the Beginning, Genesis 1:1. We're going to deal with that one verse. Usually, let's say we'll unpack that verse, Genesis 1:1. Okay, because there is much confusion about the creation and how it came about, when it came about, how old the earth is according to the Bible. Okay, so one thing we need to understand is that this particular book is the first book in the Torah, which means instruction. Okay, it was written by Moshe or Moses. This is the book of Genesis. It comes from the Greek word a Greek word that means birth, and in the Hebrew it's the Bereshit. That's in the beginning. Okay, that's what in the beginning, the Bereshit. Okay, so it says in 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. All right. So in the beginning, now understand, Moses was not in the beginning, but Moses was the one who God manifested his word unto, and he wrote it down. He wrote down the word. So this is being all revealed unto Moses. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, the first thing we need to look at is in the beginning. How long ago was that? Some would say, based on the other readings, that the earth is 6,000 years old. And they will stand firm on that. What they fail to understand is that and then those who would ridicule that position, that those many Christians will hold that the earth is 6,000 years, don't understand that the Bible is not saying that the earth is 6,000 years. It says in the beginning. How long ago in the beginning was? The Bible does not say. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth is separate from verse 2. You talking so and this is not him going about explaining when he goes into the second verse and it says, and the earth was without form and void and darkness was open on the face of the deep. That's separate. What I mean is separate is you have to understand we're talking about two different times. In the beginning, however long ago that was, the earth was created. Right? But then it says at a certain point, verse 2, the earth at some point was covered in water. Okay, so this is two separate times. Science will tell some scientists, and I'm not saying they're accurate. What do they say? The most general estimate of the Earth's existence is 13.77 billion years ago. My position is not necessarily to go against that because the Bible doesn't tell you that. The Bible doesn't tell you how long ago in the beginning was. We just know that in the beginning, an entity was there. A being was there. It says in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Because scientists will not say that the earth is eternal, right? But that it indeed had a beginning. Now, here's the problem with atheism. If something had a beginning, it had a cause. What is the cause? Something that caused it to bring it into existence. Okay? If the earth or even the universe had a beginning, it must have had a cause, right? It is not eternal. Therefore, the cause must be God. I'm going to say that again. Everything that had a beginning had a cause, right? The universe had a cause. Therefore, the cause of the universe coming into existence is God. Right? So when you read Psalms, the 19th chapter and the first verse, where it says the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork. How does it do that? How is it making a declaration? Brothers and sisters, the creation itself is declaring that God exists. Why? Because it exists. That's how. And it's telling everybody. When you look at the sun and the moon and the stars, when you look at this universe, when you look at this creation, you understand that there is a God that put everything into motion, that created this. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The next thing is pretend. Let's unpack where it says God. The word there for God in the Hebrew is Elohim. Elohim is plural intensive, meaning it's like the word family. It can mean 2 or 2,000. Okay, so who was there in the beginning? Because it says God, and understand that family can be one. So it is with the Godhead. Let's go to John, the Gospel according to John chapter 1 and verse 1. John chapter 1 and verse 1. Because here, John, in the Gospel according to John, he's telling us something about in the beginning and this God that was there. So John 1 and 1 says, in the beginning. Now we back at the beginning, right? What God created all things. It says, in the beginning was the Word. So the Word was there in the beginning. Then it says, and the Word was with God. Now we got two different entities, right? So it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, right? So this God, whoever this is, was with the Word. But then it says something, and the Word was God. Now wait a minute. We're talking about two beings that are on the same level as God. They both referred to as God, right? That's why I said it's the word Elohim is plural intensive. See, we're looking at it in English and just reading God, but when you look back and you see the word Elohim, you can understand that can be more than one. And that's why when you read, hold your finger here in John 1, when you go to Genesis 1 and verse 26, it says, and God said, let us make man in our image. Who is the us? It's the one who was just referred to as God, and it was the Word. Okay? That's how we can say that. Because it's not talking about angels. We are not made in the image of angels. We are made in the image and the likeness of God. Everything after his own kind. We are the sons of God. We are the children of God, made to become what our Father is. That's why it says, ye are God's children of the Most High God. So it says, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fowl of the air and over the cattle. Excuse me, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, that us, let's see who that is. Let's go back to John 1. Because it said the Word, just so we know who the Word is. Verse 14, John 1 and verse 14, and the Word was made flesh. Now, this one that was called the Word was also referred to as God. It said, and the Word was God. Okay? Notice there's no Trinity here because there is no Trinity. Okay? You have two beings. Right now, you have the Father and you have the Son, who was called the Word. Let's read it here. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory as the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. He is the only begotten of the dead from the Father, because the Father is God. But Jesus, the one we call Jesus in English, okay, the one we call Jesus in English, okay, they were not calling him Jesus when he walked the earth. Okay, let's make that clear. But that one, he was God in the beginning. That's why when Isaiah prophesied of him, he said Emmanuel, which means God in the flesh. El is another word for God. He was God in the flesh. So he was sitting on the throne of God, took upon the flesh of man and walked, died, was resurrected from the dead, and went back to being God and sitting on the right hand of his Father, waiting for his foes to be made his footstool. So it says here, it says, verse 14 again, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Now let's go back to verse 1. Because, again, these two here, you have, we're just talking about the Father and the Son. But the Son is called the Word. And we're going to find out even why that's so fitting. But then it says something. In verse 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So you have these two, both as God. But then it says the same was in the beginning with God. Then it says all things were made by him. And without him was not anything made that was made. So now who is this one that has made all things? It's talking about the Word. We just read that the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory is as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. This one who made all things was the Son. So when you read in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, understand, just like when it said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, perhaps the Father, Son, but perhaps the Father said it, but the Son actually carried it out. And the Bible tells us that. Let's go to, there's a couple places we could go. Let's go to Hebrews 1, and we want to pick it up at verse 1. So it says here, Hebrews 1 and 1, it says, God who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. So in the old days, he spoke by his prophets that he sent betimes, rising up early and sending them to the fathers, the prophets who had the message of God, who foretold of the impending danger, the imminent devastation that was to come if the people didn't repent. It says, now he says what he's done, what God has done in these last days. It said, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. But how did he speak unto us by his Son? Because his Son took upon the flesh, the form of a flesh and blood man, and walked this earth for 33.5 years. So it said, who hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. Then it said, whom he hath appointed heir of all things. What does he mean? He's appointed him heir of all things. Hold your finger right here just to break that down really quickly. Let's go to Psalms 2. Psalms 2 and verse, I will pick it up at verse 7. It says, I declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Right? Then it says something else. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance in the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Because the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Read that in the book of Revelation. I believe 11 and 15. But let's go back to Hebrews 1. Hebrews 1. And let's pick it up at verse 2 again. So it said, hath in these last days, God's talking about God, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, because he's going to inherit all things. Then it says, by whom also he made the worlds. He is the one that created the worlds. He did that. So when you read it in John 1, and we'll pick it up at verse 3, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. We should understand that that's talking about the one called the Word or the Son, none other than the one who we call in English Jesus. Okay, that's what we call him in English. Now let's see how he did this. Okay, let's go to Psalms. Excuse me. We're going to pick it up at the 33rd chapter. We're going to pick it up at Psalms 33. And we want to pick it up at verse 6. 33 and verse 6. Because this here shows the power that God has and why it's fitting as to why he was called the Word. It says in Psalms 33 and verse 6, by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. See, he only needs to speak the word. That's all he needs to do. That's all he needs to do. Let's go to, hold your finger here. All he needs to do is speak the word, and he can, Things come into existence. See, and things get done. That's the power of God. He doesn't need to go out and get a hammer and a shovel. He just does it. He just does it by speaking the word. He speaks and it is so. So when he said, matter of fact, go back to Genesis just to show you an example of this, how he could just speak the word. In verse 3, it said, God said, let there be light, and there was light. See, again, he said it, and it happened. So the creation, when you look at it, it is a direct result of the word spoken by the one called the Word, who is none other than the Mashiach who came, or the Messiah who came in the flesh, who was God in the beginning, who came in the flesh and dwelt among us. He's the one that actually did it. He was the one that was there in the very beginning. And this is why he could say this here. Let's go back to the gospel according to John. Okay, let's go back. Matter of fact, hold on, before we do that, let's go to one other place. Let's go to Proverbs, let's go to Proverbs, the 8th chapter, real quick. Proverbs, the 8th chapter, and then we'll go back to John. Proverbs, the 8th chapter, because he spoke the word. But understand, brothers and sisters, something else. This is about what was spoken. This is Proverbs, the 8th chapter. We want to pick it up at verse give me 1 second. Give me one moment. This is Proverbs 8 and verse 12. I'm going to pick it up there. It says, wisdom dwell with the prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. Okay, so it's talking about wisdom. But then it says something here in verse 22. It says, the Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. Then there were no fountains abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. Understand, brothers and sisters, wisdom is personified here because it is through wisdom that the earth was created. It's through the knowledge of God. It's through the knowledge and the understanding of what is known, and he is omniscient, and the correct application of what is known and understood. That's how this earth came about. Even man uses this. Man can have knowledge of something, but then he understands what he knows, and then he applies what he knows. When you look at the structures that man has built, that took wisdom. See, for example, we're going to build this building, but like a pyramid, for example. We're going to build this magnificent structure. We're going to make it to where it's always 76 degrees in this inside, regardless of how hot it is outside, regardless of what's going on in the night. It's going to be 76 degrees in here. We're going to make, I'm talking about the pyramids, we're going to make it to where it is earthquake proof. The pyramids are earthquake proof. See, that was wisdom. And that's why they still stand today. We're going to make them to where they align with the constellations, where it's perfect north. We're going to make it probably where it had electricity. See, that's what I'm talking. Man can do that. So if man can do that, when you look at the worlds and you see the wisdom that's embedded in your own body, when you see the wisdom and knowledge and understanding that's embedded within throughout the creation, that didn't come by happenstance. See, and that's how you know there was an intelligent designer. Everything we have, that's just shows you man's foolishness. Everything that we have, that we hold dear when it comes to great accomplishments of mankind, whether it be cars, whether it be planes, whether it be buildings, whether it be whatever structure it is, whatever it be some type of technological advancement, it is not as if there was no intelligence put forth to come to that. Even if they stumbled upon something, they stumbled upon it through consistent research. Consistent and diligent. They're researching one medicine to do something, and then finds out that it can address another ailment. Now, they will do that, but it's not as if there was not some kind of design put forth within that medicine. You look at nanotechnology. Look at the things that are going on right now. Look at automation. In a minute, we're going to have cars drive. You're going to see more and more cars drive, because you already see it now. Cars, self-driving cars. That doesn't come through without a designer. So how in the world could an earth that works in perfect synchronicity have no designer? How in the world could your body, that if it gets off at 98.6, you got a problem? Well, all your organs are interconnected and interdependent upon one another. How in the world, when you think it and you can move your fingers, how in the world is there no designer within that? But that just shows the mindset of man. The minds of men is mad, evil continually, desperately wicked, and they want to do what they want to do, so they want to deny God so that they don't have anybody to answer to. Oh, but the earth and the heavens declare the glory of God. His firmament shows you his handiwork. It shows you who did it. Too. Even as you read Romans 1, even the Godhead has been shown to man, so they are without excuse. Matter of fact, let's go, before I would go there next. It says, so when it says, verse 23, I was set up from everlasting from the beginning, wherever the earth was, when there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, before the mountains were settled, before the hills were, as I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. When he established the clouds above. When he strengthened the fountains of the deep. When he gave to the sea his decree. The sea, meaning it can't go past this border. That the water should not pass his commandment. When he appointed the foundations of the earth, then I was by him as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him. Rejoicing in the habitable part of his earth, and my delights were with the sons of men. He's talking about wisdom, and wisdom is personified here. People can interpret this in a variety of ways that I won't get into right now, but that's referring to wisdom. Now let's go to Romans 1. Because ultimately, brothers and sisters, and you know, it's funny because, well, it's actually tragic, but man will go to Genesis to discount the Bible, to discount the God that is described, or the higher power that's described in the Bible. But Genesis, or the Bereshit, is showing you really something that they don't understand. But something that they should understand based on not even the Bible, but just what they see. That was told, that was created in the beginning. This is Romans 1 and verse 18. Romans 1 and verse 18. It says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven with all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. What truth? So now the wrath of God is coming. Because man holds a truth in unrighteousness. So they possess this particular truth, but they hold it in unrighteousness. What is it? Verse 19, it says, because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has showed it unto them. God has showed all of mankind something that you have to do something with that knowledge. It says, he tells you what it is in verse 20, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Now, wait a minute. What was made in the beginning? God created the heaven and the earth. So because it was made, we read in Psalms 19, it's the declaration that's made through the creation. So if there's a God, if there's a creation, there's a God. I broke that down with the cosmological argument that I gave you earlier, right? If something had a beginning, it had a cause. The universe had a beginning. Therefore, the universe was caused by something. That something or that cause was none other than God. It's not rocket science. So it says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So man doesn't have an excuse for the rebellion that they have. Because one thing about this God, let's turn back to Psalms, the 19th chapter, the 19th division. When it talked about the heavens declaring the glory of God, it says in verse 3, there's no speech, no language where their voice is not heard. Talking about they utter speech and night unto night, showing knowledge. Then it talked about the sun. But then he said something. He talked about the circuit of the sun, but then he talked about something else. He said in verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right and rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes, brothers and sisters. See, we should understand that any higher power has a standard that we as subordinates to that higher power that was in the beginning, that created all things, we should submit ourselves unto, and we should seek to find out what he requires as subordinates. But the problem is we don't want to be subordinate. We don't want to be in subjection to anybody except for the sinful lust of our flesh. And therefore we deny God to our own detriment, and the wrath of God is coming. So with that, brothers and sisters, that's Genesis 1:1 in the beginning. That's just a breakdown of that verse. And just want to remind you that we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also live stream right here on the IsraelTeach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. We also have books available at Amazon.com. Into Egypt Begin with Ships, The Pagan Origin of Christian Holidays, Killing Black Innocents, Hair Like Wolf, Feel Like Burned Brass. Those are all available at Amazon.com. And also, if you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation. You can do that on our website through PayPal, or you can send something, a check or money order to our post office box. That's on the website as well. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry. We do not get paid. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you were edified.